Nuns are typically associated with compassion and kindness, but the haunting at the Borley Rectory defies this image, seeking retribution and instilling fear. Hello everyone, my name is Holmes. Today we are going to enter into one of the most haunted houses ever, the Borley Rectory. It all began in a picturesque area of Essex near the east coast of England, amidst lush and vibrant greenery. There once stood a Gothic building called Borley Rectory, constructed in 1863 under the guidance of Reverend Dawson Ellis Bull. It quickly became his residence and the home of his extended family of 14. The site itself had a mysterious and long history that preceded even the building's foundations. It is said that a monk in the monastery had an affair with a nun from a neighboring convent. Their forbidden and secret love blossomed until their affair was discovered. The outcome was dire. The monk met a terrible fate and was later hanged where Borley Rectory stood. The punishment for the nun was no less severe and painful, as she was condemned to a living grave and imprisoned alive within the church walls. Once inside the rectory, the Bull family found themselves in the middle of a series of mysterious events. Everything was marked by unknown sounds, footsteps echoing down empty corridors, disembodied voices whispering in the dead of night, and objects that seemed to move on their own. These initial events happened quickly. Children, who were particularly sensitive and perceptive, reported seeing visions of a ghostly nun in the house. This strange figure was not fleeting. It appeared frequently and was seen by many members of the Bull family. Adding to the horror was the legend of a ghostly carriage drawn by horses and driven by two headless specters. These chilling encounters continued until Henry Bull's death in 1892, when he passed the estate to his son Harry Bull. The strange events at the manor not only continued but seemed to intensify, with many bizarre occurrences recorded. On one particularly stressful day, while Harry was tending his garden, his dog suddenly began barking, showing fear and confusion, and hiding under a tree for no apparent reason. After investigating the cause of his dog's anxiety, Harry came across a chilling sight: a headless figure emerging from the foliage and a ghostly carriage gliding silently past. This was not a solitary encounter. Harry had several strange encounters with ghostly carriages, which would speed past and then vanish. Throughout these apparitional events, the ghostly nun was a constant presence. She was often seen wandering the grounds in broad daylight, peering restlessly out of windows. On many occasions, Harry's family meals were interrupted by the sight of her face at the window. This became so frequent and annoying that Harry eventually took the step of bricking up the dining room window to protect his family from her prying eyes. As Harry watched, the constant events became increasingly more terrifying. Following Harry Bull's death in 1927, the rectory found itself draped in silence, temporarily abandoned, until Reverend Guy Eric Smith and his wife decided to call it their home. On one occasion, Reverend Smith opened a cabinet in the library to put away some books and discovered a human skull sitting on the shelf. His wife gasped as her husband took the skull out. She started to worry that maybe the stories they had heard were true, that the house was really haunted. She guessed that the skull may have belonged to the ghostly nun, or it could have been one from the people buried in the plague pits. Plague pits were mass graves used during the bubonic plague outbreak of the 1600s. But the skull could have been recovered from one of those pits when London started to build its underground railway. But the good Reverend cautioned his wife to calm down before she convinced herself that all of the stories were true. Still, it was pretty hard to ignore the fact that there had been no fewer than a dozen who had turned down the position. He also couldn't shake the fact that he knew that a former rector had a window in the dining room bricked up because he didn't like seeing the ghost of a nun staring at him all the time. But he tried to push those thoughts from his mind as he and the church sexton gave the skull a solemn burial in the churchyard. However, it wasn't long before they experienced something that they couldn't ignore. These phenomenon would start shortly after they got ready for bed. They would lay in bed, and they would hear what sounded like heavy footsteps walking past the bedroom door. Smith even tried to attack this thing by crouching outside of their door with a hockey stick, but he never struck anything. Then they heard the moans of a female from the archway that led into the chapel. Keys would get dislodged from their locks and were found several feet from the door. Inaudible hoarse whispers could be heard over their heads, and small pebbles would come out of nowhere and hit them. Reverend Smith found himself compelled to arm himself with a stick as he moved about his own home, a testament to the unsettling presence that seemed to stalk them from the shadows. Driven to the brink of insanity by these chilling experiences, the Smiths reached out to the Daily Mirror in 1929, desperate for answers. The newspaper responded by dispatching a man named Harry Price, a renowned paranormal researcher, along with his team. They were tasked with unraveling the secrets that lay hidden within the walls of Borley Rectory, a mission that promised to delve deep into the unknown. Shortly after his arrival at Borley Rectory, Harry Price found himself quickly immersed in the intense paranormal activities that seemed to occur out of nowhere. Throughout his investigation, Price documented witnessing several unexplainable events that defied logic. Objects were observed levitating and hurling through the air, propelled by something unseen, while cryptic messages eerily formed on mirrors, seemingly tapped out by ghostly fingers. In a particularly chilling incident, Price and his assistant watched in disbelief as a glass candlestick floated ominously before them, only to violently shatter against the wall, sending a cascade of glass fragments scattering in all directions. Moreover, Price reported encounters with spectral figures that had become almost legendary at Borley Rectory. He claimed to have seen the haunting vision of the nun, headless coach drivers eerily navigating the night, and even the ghost of Henry Bull himself, looming within the shadow-filled corridors. They even purported to capture photographic evidence of an apparition, adding a tangible, albeit ghostly, chapter to the rectory's storied history. However, it's worth noting that many of the extraordinary phenomena reported by Price were not corroborated by the experiences of the Smiths, leading to skepticism about the veracity of some events. Despite this, the Smiths had encountered enough unexplained disturbances to decide to leave the rectory in 1929, less than a year after they had made it their home. Price's detailed accounts of the bizarre occurrences at Borley Rectory were widely publicized, catapulting the story into the realm of public fascination and debate. This was the moment that the haunting of Borley Rectory transcended mere local folklore to become a captivating mystery that captured the imagination of the wider public. Following Harry Price's investigation, which earned the property the title of the most haunted house in England, the residence welcomed its new occupants in 1930. The incoming family comprised Reverend Lionel Foister, a relative of the initial proprietor Henry Bull, alongside his wife Mary Ann and their adopted daughter Adelaide. Their daily lives were interrupted by an array of inexplicable events that would test the skepticism of even the staunchest doubter. Objects with minds of their own would be thrown through the air. Rocks, glasses, and bottles quickly became projectiles used by unseen forces. Windows shattered spontaneously as if struck by invisible stones. Objects would mysteriously vanish as well, only to reappear in the most unlikely places, as if the house itself was playing a macabre game of hide-and-seek with the living. Adding to the eerie ambiance were, once again, the inexplicable sounds of non-existent ringing bells, accompanied by unsettling sounds of heavy breathing by no one that could be seen. Footsteps echoed in the halls, suggesting the presence of unseen visitors that were treading the corridors alongside the living. There was one time when Mary Ann set her watch by her side as she got ready to wash her hands in the bathroom. Once she was finished, she reached to get it and found that the band had been removed. It disappeared and never showed up. When Reverend Foister started to realize that the tales he had heard were true, he wasn't worried because he thought his faith would protect him. He used a holy relic to quiet the disturbances whenever they got really bad, and he stayed calm enough to write about his experiences in a journal. For some reason, Mary Ann was the brunt of the most sadistic and cruel parts of the haunting. As she was going to bed, she was hit in the eye, which slashed her skin and gave her a large black bruise. Another time, she barely missed being hit by a flat iron that shattered the chimney of the lamp she was holding. While one aspect of the ghosts wanted to hurt her, another part wanted to contact her. She would find messages like, "Mary Ann, please get help," written on the walls. After Foister realized that Harry Price had shown an interest in the rectory, he reached out to inform him of the renewed activity. Once he arrived, Price and his 2 assistants started to examine the house from top to bottom once more. While Price looked through an upstairs room, an empty wine bottle was thrown and narrowly missed him. Shortly after that, they heard the screams of their chauffeur, who had stayed in the kitchen to smoke a cigarette. The man insisted that he saw a large, black hand crawl across the floor. Foister showed Price a journal entry he had made on March 28th. This was after his wife had seen a grotesque entity while walking up the stairs. It reached out and touched her shoulder with an iron-like touch. The Foisters also said that the haunting started to bring out items that were not theirs. A small tin trunk had appeared in the kitchen as they had supper. A powder box that held a wedding ring showed up in the bathroom, and after they had put it away in a drawer, it disappeared. They endured the harassment for 5 years and left in October 1935. After they left, the bishop said that the rectory should be put up for sale. It should have been no surprise, but nobody was interested. In 1937, Price learned that the rectory was vacant once more and offered to lease it so he could create a ghost laboratory. His offer was accepted, and the investigator gathered a crew of 40 men who would take turns living in the rectory for a period of a year. Price outfitted the house with special ghost detecting equipment and created a booklet that he shared with his researchers on how to correctly record and observe any phenomena. Not long after Price's crew arrived, strange messages that looked as if they had been written in pencil started to show up on the walls. Each time they discovered a new note, it was circled and dated. 2 Oxford graduates said they witnessed the formation of a message as they were cataloging another. It appeared that they missed Marianne. It wrote, "Marianne, please help." The investigators started to notice cold spots in an upstairs passage. While this is common for haunted places, it had gone unnoticed in their other explorations, as well as by the previous rectors. The investigators shivered and felt faint whenever they passed through it. They found another cold spot on the landing outside of the blue room. Thermometers showed that these spots were always 48 degrees no matter what temperature the rest of the house was. On Price's last day there, the wedding band showed back up. To make sure it didn't disappear again, he took it back to London. In late 1938, Captain W.H. Gregson bought the haunted house and renamed it the Priory. He wasn't intimidated by the stories, but he was upset when his dog went wild with terror on their move-in day and ran away. He would never see his dog again. He was also worried about the strange track of unidentified footprints that circled the house in the snow. He swore that they had not been made by any normal creature. He tried to follow them, but they disappeared. In a twist of fate, closely aligning with the prophecy made by the spirits, the new owner of Borley Rectory, Captain W.H. Gregson, accidentally dropped an oil lamp, causing a fire that engulfed the house. The resulting blaze severely damaged the building, leaving it a charred shell of its former glory. Later, during an investigation in 1943, Price entered the remains of the cellar and discovered what he believed to be the remains of a young woman. This claim sparked controversy, with some skeptics questioning the human origin of the remains. Additional reports came from individuals, including World War II soldiers stationed nearby, who felt that unseen forces were hurling stones at them. These mysterious events continued until the rectory met its ultimate fate and was demolished in 1944. Over time, the frequency and intensity of paranormal activity seemed to decrease. By the time of Harry Price's death in 1948, the story of Borley Rectory's haunted legacy had faded into the shadows of history. The vivid narratives of paranormal activity and ghostly sightings transitioned into whispered legends, turning Borley Rectory and its ghostly inhabitants into echoes of the past. In the years since its peak notoriety, the story of the cursed Borley Rectory has been embroiled in controversy and has come under much greater scrutiny than expected. Harry Price's critical reports, once a source of fascination, are now under heavy scrutiny by the Society for Psychical Research, SPR. This agency, specializing in investigating paranormal phenomena, has questioned the accuracy of Price's findings. They believe that many of the reported incidents can be attributed to natural explanations, exaggerations, or fabrications by Price himself. To make matters worse, a Daily Mail reporter who accompanied Price on the Rectory investigation has come forward with allegations that have cast doubt on the entire investigation. The accusations claim that Price made up the whole story. Further confirmation comes from Marianne Foister, a central figure in the Borley Rectory saga, who later admitted that the hauntings they encountered were fabricated. This suggests that the haunting stories that captivated the public were the result of an elaborate hoax perpetrated by the Bulls, the Foisters, Harry Price, and his investigative team. According to these claims, these individuals were not seekers of the truth, but rather skilled illusionists and storytellers who created a complex web of ghostly tales that blurred the line between fact and fiction. This discovery sheds new light on Borley Rectory, suggesting that its history might be based more on human creativity and the desire for fame and entertainment, rather than actual supernatural occurrences. Despite the swirling skepticism, it seems almost unbelievable that such a diverse group could maintain a hoax over many years. Many witnesses have passionately argued that the events they experienced could not have been the product of manipulation, adding several layers of intrigue to the narrative. This belief, held by many, has ensured that the extraordinary legend of Borley Rectory continues to intrigue and fascinate, transforming its events into enduring narratives that continue to fuel discussion and debate to this day. But the question remains, what really happened within those walls? Do these stories hold any truth? The truth is up to you to decide. Since the main figures and investigators of these mysterious events have long since passed away, and the rectory itself has disappeared from the physical world, we find ourselves caught in a web of speculation. The story of Borley Rectory seems like a journey into uncharted territory, haunted by ghosts from the past that continue to fascinate those who dare to explore its depths. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. You can also support my work by buying me a coffee using the link in the description. Alright, see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.